Recently I saw a poster for something that looked like a circus type of event, and I figured I wanted to try to see what I could do, see how quickly I could make the same type of thing. So this is an 8.5 by 11, so this would fit onto a normal sheet of paper. And for the purpose of this, I'm going to make this a little bit easier on myself. I'm going to go into the slide master and I'm going to insert a shape here. Just to give me, not that shape. We want to insert a nice little rectangle. So this would be something that lays there in the background, and when the time comes that I need to make like white shapes or anything like that in the foreground, it's a little bit easier to do. So let me close out the slide master there. So now I'm not dragging that shape around if I try to move anything here. So let's start the first slide is going to be my image slide. So let's start by on each of the successive slides making the general shapes that we want. I want to start by making the tent, the circus tent. So that's strange, I keep clicking the wrong thing there. Let's try this again. I want to use an isosceles triangle, and we'll grab that. I also want to insert a rectangle for myself here. So the isosceles triangle, let's get this centered here, and the rectangle, we're going to center it up there. There we go. Now I can adjust the size of this and then recenter it as I see fit. And once I have that where I want it to be, I want to take this, let's stretch it up a tiny bit there. I want to take this triangle, and this is going to be the top of my tent. Well, the top of a circus tent tends to sag a bit, so I'm going to go here and edit the points. And I'm going to edit these points by bending them toward the corners of this smaller rectangle here. Okay, so let me grab these and pull this one up, and there we go. So now I have a little bit of concavity going on there with the triangle, which is going to serve as the top of the tent. I'm going to take these, I'm going to form a union between the two, merge them together, and we want this to be, let's go with a dark red shape. I like the old-timey types of circus posters. So for the purpose of this, I actually want to make this red a little darker. And we don't necessarily need to have an outline on it, but I'm going to make a duplicate of that, and I just did that by hitting copy and paste. And I pulled that together, and let's make that white. There we go. Now, there we go. So that pulls in, and I want to make this first one just a tiny bit narrower than the outer edge. So now I'm going to grab the red one, copy, paste, pull it in, and I want to pull it in a little bit more. So these should each get wider and wider, these gaps in between these as I get closer to the center, because that's indicating to me the roundness, that's showing the roundness of the tent, right? So let me grab this and pull this into here. Very good. And then I try not to sound too much like Bob Ross as I do this, but occasionally that might come out a little bit. So that I might have gone too far with that one. So let's pull that one in there and pull that to there. That looks pretty good. So now what I want to do is I want this to curve down a little bit, not too much. So let's start by these outer shapes, and I'm going to hold down Alt as I do this. I'm going to pull it down a little, and with each successive one I'm going to unclick the outermost. Alright, so I pull this in there. So now I've made a nice little curve there and gave the illusion of 3D on this tent. Now, of course, I have the problem here that this looks real blocky, but we're going to fix that right now. I'm going to do this by inserting an oval. And this oval, I'll come up here and adjust it so that it fits with the approximate curve up there. That looks pretty good. So that's about the curve I want to have down here. So now I'm going to go ahead and insert a shape, and let's put a rectangle in down here. And this rectangle is going to be my scissors for cutting this. I'm going to first take the rectangle, hold Shift, select the oval, and say subtract. Now I've made a shape here that will match the curve that I'm trying to create there. So I'm going to pull this out here to the side, and let's take this. I've hit Control C, and I'm just hitting Control V and duplicating it several times, 5 times in fact, because there are 5 instances of the tent shape on here. So now I'm going to go around the outer edge. I select the outside and I say subtract. I'll go to the next one in and I say subtract, and I work my way in. It's hard to see what I'm doing here, but once I get to the center, you'll see where the magic is. And you can go back and slow this down and view what's going on yourself. But there we go. So now we have a nice tent shape. Let's go ahead and take that tent shape and group it. So now if I want to resize these shapes, I can resize them all I want. And a tent like this at a circus is probably, let's squeeze it up a little bit. It doesn't need to be quite so tall. A tent like this at a circus is probably going to have some flags in it. So let's go ahead and create a flag. I'm going to add a rectangle there, and let's insert a line. Okay, now for my line, let's come up here. For my line, I want to make the shape format, the outline kind of heavy. All right, and let's grab this right here and select a color. I want to select a nice dark brown kind of color. If I say more colors, I can come over here and darken it a little bit. That works for me. And here, I actually like this blue color. I may go with a slightly darker blue here in just a bit, but let's see. Shape outline. Oh yeah, I like that dark blue right there. All right. And then we want this flag to be a tiny bit wavy. So let's say edit points, and I'm just going to grab these 4 points. The left side points I'm going to bend up a bit, like this. And the right side points I'm going to bend down a bit. Not a lot, just a tiny, tiny bit, just like that. And we have our points, and we have a flag. Let's go ahead and take this and group it so that it's easy to move around. And this flag, let's shrink it a little bit here, right there. And let's make a few copies of this. We're going to put a few of these onto here, okay? And let's bring the tent to the front. Oop, bring it to the front. And let's take the totality of this thing and group it together, okay? So now I can move the whole thing around. And again, I can bend it around all as I see fit. Now, I probably need to put a front tent flap on here. So let's go with we'll go with a triangle shape for that. So let's put this up here in the front, something like this. And this doesn't have to be super fancy. I can just come down here. Let's make the shape fill a dark color. I'll use black for this, and I want no outline on this. Okay, so I put this up to here, and I may have to bend this up to match the tent there. If I do, that's fine. I just say edit points. I bend the point up a little bit, bend this point up a tiny bit. It's hard to even see that anything has happened there, but it is happening. And then we put that where we want it. Adjust that down just a tiny, tiny bit, and we're good to go. Now, that's an opening, but of course we need to have tent flaps. So let's go ahead and put some tent flaps into there. So I want to insert a triangle. And the triangle, let's go with a basic shape here, though I'd like to have the outline be that dark red shape that I had. So let's put this over here. And I'll bring it up a little bit. And same thing, edit points. And we're going to grab this point, we're going to pull it right up to the top, grab this point, pull it up to here. And these tent flaps don't need to be too big. We can bend this up a little bit to show the way the tent flap works. And let's make a copy of that, bring it over here. And I'll take that copy, I'll flip it horizontally, and bring it right up to here. And now, that's really rough, nothing's lined up. So this is where I go ahead and I can just use my arrow keys to adjust these where I want them to be. And if that's not quite where I want it to be on that triangle, that's easy enough to fix. I just say edit point, grab this point, grab it to the top, pull it to the top rather, take this point, pull it to the top, and we're done. So we have a nice little tent there. So let's take that tent, copy it. I'm going to paste it up here. I'm going to go ahead and paste it as an image. It'll make some of the things a little bit easier for me later on. I'm also going to take this tent and I'm going to copy it, paste a copy of it here, but I want to have just completely black. In fact, actually better yet, let's make it gray with no outlines. Okay. Oop, that won't work. Can't have completely gray with no outlines, because if I do that, it breaks my flagpoles. So we'll fix that. I'm going to cut, paste it as an image, and back here, whoop, I said paste it as an image. Let's take this one and we'll send this to the back. Okay, and this gives me a nice little silhouette of a second tent in the background there, and we can crop that over the edge. Okay, so the next thing I need to do is I want to make I've got a nice silhouette of a tent here. Let's go ahead and make a Ferris wheel for the other side. Now this is something we can do pretty quickly in here. Let's take a 12-point star shape, okay? And we'll center this one up right here. There we go. Now let's pull this in from the outside here, and then I'm going to go ahead and let's insert another shape. I like the donut shape here for this. I'll just grab this, pull it down. I'm holding shift while I stretch this, and that keeps it as a perfect circle. And it centers it nicely for me there. So I have this shape on the outside here. We'll shrink that down, put this in the middle here so that you can see the Ferris wheel shape there. And then let's go ahead and insert one more circle here in the center. And there we go. Boom. Now this Ferris wheel needs to be held up with something, so I'm going to go ahead and grab another isosceles triangle, and this works nicely for that. And then the last thing is, I actually want to pull that in a little bit more. I'm not a fan of that. There we go. Let's get this right out at the edge there, and then we'll pull this in a tiny bit. Boom. That's where we want it. All right, now a Ferris wheel, of course, people ride a Ferris wheel and they have to ride in something, so we're going to take this trapezoid shape here. We're going to bring it up a tiny bit, and I'm just hitting Control C, Control V. I'm just pasting these in and dragging them up. Paste, drag it up. That's Control V just to paste it into there. Again, not perfect, doesn't need to be. It does what I need it to do. Let's pull this up a little bit. Let's make these a little bit more visible. Pull this one down here, and it doesn't take long. You just go through, you add these in. I like putting it to where the top of the shape is about at the point. Copy and paste one more, and there we go. Again, not perfectly even, doesn't need to be. I'm going to copy this. We want to do the same thing as we did before. Let's make the shape fill that gray color, the shape outline the same gray color, and I'm going to say copy, paste it as an image, cut that image, put it into here, send it to the back, and pull it down. Oh, and now I've got myself a nice little Ferris wheel in the background there. So these are the center pieces, and since I made this a picture, I'm going to go ahead and crop. Oh, not that. Let's crop it in. There we go. I made that a picture, so I've got that in the background. Now, what else do I need on here? I could probably put in a few clouds, so let's go ahead and I want to make some clouds. Here's how I do it. Bob Ross makes clouds by just putting in a bunch of paint. I make clouds by putting in a bunch of shapes. So let's grab this, and we want to make the shape fill white, shape outline none, and make a few of these. Just put them in there however you want. Alright, and then once I have that, I select them all like that. I say Union, and I have a nice little cloud. And I can make a copy of that. Let's flip it over and stretch it a little bit this way, and then it's not completely obvious that it was a copy. but it does what I need it to do. And for this one, let's say, yeah, a nice lighter blue makes that cloud a little bit further away. So when I send this to bring this one to the front, and then send both of them to the back, those look nice. And it helps make that pop out a little bit right up there. Now, a common thing that you see on Circus posters is kind of a sunburst image. So let's make a new slide. I'm going to go ahead and make that sunburst now. An easy way to do this is, let's go to the shapes. I'm going to add a 24-point star shape. And let's grab this, make sure it's nice and centered. I'm going to grab this yellow dot and then pull it in here as far as it'll go to the center. And that makes the general shape that I need to serve as an outline for my 24-point sunburst. So the way I'm going to do this, I'm going to take a nice right angle here, right triangle, and we'll put that in there. And I'm going to duplicate that and flip it over. And I hold shift and it causes it to snap to the right angles. So now I'll take these two, merge them together, and duplicate it, overlay it, hold shift, boom, and put those together, and duplicate it, line it back up. I can make a couple of these, line it back up, and there we go. So now I take all three of these and bring them together. I can move this out, I can get rid of the sunburst, I can put this back in the middle, and once it's back in the, actually, before I put it back in the middle, I need to make it huge. I want it to fill up the whole screen. So I'm going to rely on the snap to of the shape on the page, and what we end up with is this thing that goes way outside of the page. So how do I fix that? Well, I'm going to make myself some scissors. Copy, paste, 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 a few rectangles. Let's make the rectangle up here, and if I take the original shape and then the other rectangle, the original shape and the other rectangle, I hold shift and I say subtract, it shaves it right off of there. So I'm going to do the rest of these all at once, but I'm going to grab that one, pull it to there, grab that one, snap it up to the page there, grab this one, bring it down and snap it over to the page there, grab the original shape, boom, 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 and subtract, and I've got what I need. Now for this, we want to make the fill on this a lighter color, no outline, and let's take this shape effect, and under the fill color, if I say more fill color options, I can adjust the transparency down. So let's adjust the transparency down a little bit, and I really like that a lot. So now I'm going to copy that, bring it up here, paste it in, and send it to the back. And I've got a nice little sunburst there. And one of the things that I can do with that sunburst is take this cloud and send it to the back. Now the sunburst, some of those sunbeams are coming out in front of the cloud, and some of them are going in behind the cloud. But you get a little bit of additional depth created here in the image. So the next thing I want to do is make a nice frame to go around the outer edge, because this is a poster after all. So to make that frame, let's come down here. I'm going to make myself a new slide, and I'm going to grab a rectangle shape. Let's get this pretty close to the size that we want it to be. It doesn't need to be perfect. There's some play in the joints here, and so that piece is centered. Now, I like having a nice little trim off to make it look almost like a ticket around here. And so one way you can do that is by inserting a shape, and we want this to be a perfect circle. So I'm going to hold shift as I create this. But let's pop this right up here into the corner. And I want to line this up so that it lines up, there we go, perfectly on the corner. And I'm going to make a copy of this at a few places. And as I copy it, I'm going to bring two more down here. I like doing these one at a time because as you're trying to get them lined up, one of the things that can happen is you get a whoop, it's trying to line both of them up at once and it gets a little confused. There we go. And then the last thing I want to do here is make two more. I want it to be lined up on the outer edges and equidistant up there, and that looks just about perfect. So now what I'm going to do, I have an idea of how I want to do this, so I'm going to do an additional step here, and it'll make sense once I'm done with it, hopefully. I'm going to make another set of circles in here that fit right into the middle of these. Okay, and these circles, I'll color them yellow so that they're easier for you to see in the video. That looks pretty close, and I think it'll be close enough for what I want to do here. There and there. Yeah, that looks pretty good. So let's take these and pull them all into a single shape so that I can just push them off to the side and I don't need to think about them. And then I'm going to take this one, take the center shape, and I'm going to use these outer shapes as scissors around it. So we're going to subtract those. Very good. And then when these come back in, these will have just the right distance around the outer edge of the shape that's already there, just like that, see? So when I make an additional layer, let's put this in here, something about like that. Now again, let's push this out of the way. I'm going to put it way out here because I don't want there to be any confusion about what the center point is here. Let's grab these, bring them back, and get that one centered. There we go. And now I'm going to take the center shape, grab this, and subtract. Now it's going to seem like, gosh, you did a lot of stuff there. The reality is I didn't do much, but it's going to help me to create the totality of the frame that I'm trying to make here. So let's make an outer rectangle here, send this to the back, and I'm going to take this outer one and the innermost one, and I'm going to subtract them. I'm going to cut that, bring it up to the top layer, and paste it in, and what you see is the totality of the frame. I'm going to go back down. I'm going to take this, the next outer layer one, and I'm going to bring this up and I'm going to paste it into there as well. Now for this one, I'm going to make a outline, a bright white, and I'm going to make it no fill. And that outline I'm going to make really heavy, something like that, right? For this outer part, I'm going to make the fill color be that deep red color that I had for the tent itself. And then I'm going to take this outline. Let's go ahead and give it an outline, that frame. Let's give it a nice heavy outline of that cream color, okay? But here's where the magic's going to take place. This inner one, I'm going to make this a dashed line, and I'm going to look at other options. So if I go down here to more lines, I'm going to crank this up to something a little bigger, something like that, and I'm going to make these round dashes. So now what I'm left with, I can pull this in a tiny bit. Oop, there we go. And I can pull this up a tiny bit. There we go. So now I have a nice dotted edge on the outside of here. And I can actually take this dotted edge and let's apply a shape effect to it. Let's make it a glowing edge so it should look like glowing lights around a sign. So this is a good starting point. Now let's go ahead and get a star into here, because if you ever look at old-timey circus posters, you would see little stars added in here up at the corners, right? So let's go ahead and we'll add one in right here. And it's going to be the same thing. I want to use the same fill color. I don't need an outline color. And for our effects, we want to make the effect a yellow outer glow. And so that star will be there in that corner. We'll line another one up over here. We'll select both of these, copy paste them, pull them down to the bottom. And there we go. And then for the center part here, let's make this a little easier. I'll go ahead and pull this into here, and we could do this a few different ways. I think the best way might just be to increase the size of the star a little bit. and pull this one up here, pull this one up by the same amount, and bring it over to there. All right, so we have a nice frame now around the outer edge, and it has that same glow. Now, you often see in circus posters like this ribbons in the outer corners. So I'm going to come down here and let's make a few of those ribbons. And this is one of those places where PowerPoint actually has one of the things that we need built right into it. So I can grab that. I can play with these, stretch them up a bit, stretch it out a bit, bring it down. Yeah, get myself. I want enough room that I can put some writing in there. And they have a, let's go ahead and insert two of these. They have the upper ribbon and the lower ribbon. And so if I take the lower ribbon and I pull it to the same points, it should match the size pretty well. And I have to, again, pull these out, match them. If I wanted it to be an exact match, an absolute exact match, I could always just take this one up here. In fact, this is what I'll do. I'm going to take this one, delete it, take this one, copy, paste, and invert it, and it's good. And what will happen is this will be the top ribbon and this will be the bottom ribbon. And I'm going to want 4 of these because these are going to be in the 4 corners. So there and there. So now we have text that we want to put into these ribbons. And for the purpose of these, let's go ahead and have the outline be, again, that red outline shape. And the, oh, no, and the fill will be that cream colored fill. And let's put a few words in here. So I want to use some text boxes. And let's put in the word amazing. And let's center this. And we'll increase our font size a bit. Once I select the whole box, I can increase the font size a bit. And let's go with a very, very easy to read. I'll do articulate extra bold. And let's bring this down. You can pick whatever fonts you want from the fonts that you have. I actually have quite a few, so you work with what works for you. So in shape format here, I come to text effects, and under transform, I can make this text effect an arc. And if I put a little space there on either side of it, it causes it to arc up nicely there. Okay, and you, again, this is something you play with to get it to do exactly what you want it to do. Here, by hitting a carriage return and bringing it down, it causes it to pop up and actually arc a little more. So I'm going to go ahead and I have amazing on one of those. Let's say I want to say, let's bring this back, magical, right? There we go. And yeah, let's take that, magical, very good. And we want these font sizes to match. So let's pull this into here. The one down here, let's say incredible. Now, of course, this one has the problem of it's arching up rather than arching down. So I have to go here to my text effects and change the transform so that it arches down. And the way I'm going to do that here is I'm going to take those extra spaces that I had below and I'm going to put them above. So I'm going to hit a carriage return and I'm going to pull this up and it's going to arch into there just like that nicely. And let's do one more. And what's another good word? Maybe, I don't know, stupendous. Let's see. S, something like that. I might actually decrease the font size on this a tiny bit to make it fit. But that looks pretty good. So now I'm going to take these one at a time, and for the purpose of this I'm just going to paste them as images because it lets me do this quickly. You lose the scaling, but I don't need to scale it beyond an 8.5 by 11. I'm doing these one at a time so that there'll be 4 separate pictures. If I try to do them all at once, it'll make just one giant picture. But now that I've got all 4 of these, let's cut them and we'll bring them up here and paste them in. And so let's bring the size down a little bit on each of these. So I can come up here to the corners and I can say throw this at an angle here. And we want it, and we want this to be at about a 45-degree angle. Alright, as long as it stops trying to grab it and move the whole frame. That's not quite what I'm looking for. But let's grab this one, put it at about a nice 45-degree angle. There we go. And just moving these down, and again, it doesn't need to be perfect. This is a quick and dirty exercise to see how quickly you can make something based on the tasks you've been given. So I see I have my tent in the middle. I'm pretty happy about that. I like my sunburst. I like the clouds that I have here. Maybe I should put some ground in here, so we can simplify that a little bit. Let's just put something in here. I'll pick green. Let's maybe make it a super dark green though, because that goes with the more subdued colors that we have in here. We'll send it to the back, and let's take our sunburst and send that to the back as well. And there we go. So we have some ground, we have a sunburst. And then the question is well, what is this event that we have going on? Well, it's a circus. So maybe I want to make a circus sign. And we're coming up on 30 minutes here. This is getting kind of long, so let's see if I can knock this out quickly. Let's grab a shape right here, pull this in a little bit, and I'm going to take this, I'm going to say edit points, grab this shape, bend this up to about there maybe, and grab this one and bend it down to about there. And as I look at this, I probably should have bent those in the other order. So that looks about right. Okay. So now I'm going to take this shape and I'm going to put line one end up over here, and I'm going to just drag it across so it's the same size. Drag it back to here. That should snap them together nicely. And let's say merge shapes. And let's go ahead and get rid of the outline on this so that I'm really clear on what the shape is I'm working with. I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to duplicate this shape, and let's snap it up here and drag it up until it lines up and it's the same size. And now I have the opposite side. Alright, now let's go ahead and we'll actually, before I go any further with that, let's pull these in a little bit, because I don't think I need to have it quite so large. Alright, now let's take a copy of this, and I'm going to rotate it up 90 degrees, pull it in, and I'm going to get my let's go ahead and add a fill color so that it's really easy to see what I'm doing here. But I want to get this lined up, and I need to get it lined up in a way that the corners show a little bit of a corner, but I want to be able to have this fit into here. So I'm going to duplicate this shape, line this up on the edge, take it across, line it up to match, take it across over to here. It looks like that's about lined up there. Let's pull it back a little bit, and that's where we want it to be. Now I have this problem though, that I got this blue part showing over top of the edge here, and I've got these corners showing here. So I want to get rid of those. So how do I do that? Well, the way I'm going to do it is I'm going to make myself a set of scissors. For the yellow ones first, let's take these two yellow ones and merge them together into one shape. And then I'm going to take my scissors and apply it to the yellow first. So I want to get rid of the overlap on the yellow. So, not a text box. I want to grab yellow, grab my scissors, and subtract. And then I have the blue part that's showing there. So again, let's make myself a set of scissors, and bring this over to here, select the blue part, select the scissors, and subtract. Now, I should have merged these two first. Let's do that. That'll help. Merge this shape into one union, and then insert this into a set of scissors here. Whoop. Select the blue part, select my scissors, and subtract. And one of those things that happens is, you notice I was able to figure out exactly what I had done wrong the second I started doing this, or the second I saw what the outcome looked like. And you'll get the same thing as you go along here. You figure these things out as you go, and you know what you expect to see, and if what you see is different, then that's an experiment. So let's take this shape and merge it into a union. So now I have a nice shape for a circus sign. Now let's insert a rounded rectangle into here. This will help to make the base sign. So I have a nice outer edge, I have a nice rounded rectangle. Let's get the outer edge lined up at the center of the page. And boom, there we go. And this one lined up, there we go. Now, let's take this outer one and let's make its fill color the nice dark red color. And let's take the inner one and give it that cream color for the fill color. For both of these, I want to take that dark brown color that I had earlier and make that the outer line. But I'm going to make this outer line huge, really, really huge. Okay. And then I'm going to use that light effect that I did earlier. So I'm going to duplicate these because these have all the shapes that I want. And for these, I just say no fill and the light color. Let's bring the light color in a tiny bit, make the dashes, and make those dashes round. Now I have my lights, and now I want to take those lights and I want to apply an outer glow, and that looks a lot like a sign. Okay, so now let's add a text box here, and we'll put the word Circus. And you can pick the font that you want. There's a whole variety of fonts you can choose. I grabbed some fonts online. Looks like there's a nice Circus Ornate font. Let's see, this one's nice. Ooh, I kind of like this one. Let's see how this one looks when I blow it up a bit. And we want to grab this and pull this out a little bit. We'll blow this up a little more. Boom, boom, boom. And let's center it. All right, there we go. Is that the one I want? Let's see. I thought I saw... Oh, this one's a nice one. Let's use this one. So for this one, I'm going to say, make my text fill, text outline. Let's apply that. Oh yeah, that looks nice. And that text fill shows up nicely as the colors of the glow that I have on those lights. So there we go. So let's take this and we're going to group this together so that it's all one group and I can easily copy, paste, move it, bend it as I need to. Let's bend this down a little bit. Now it wants to adjust the font and I can fix that in a moment. Let's pull this in a tiny bit and let's select the font and bring it down until it just fits. There we go. That looks really good. So now here, I want to take this, my tent, and bring it to the front. I've got this big flag sticking up in the middle there, so I can take my tent and bend it down a tiny bit. That does what I need, but of course that creates another problem for me. So let's, rather than dealing with push to the front, bring to the back, anything like that, let's take that tent and let's start working it down. Oh. Let's take the sign and the tent together, sign and tent, and let's start working them down until they're just behind my frame. There we go. They're just behind the frame. So I'm pretty close to being done here. I think probably the only thing left I have to do, I could play around with adding, some shadows there if I like. But all in all, I kind of like this. Maybe I'll take... maybe I will take that frame and bring it back up to the front. As I look at this more and more, I kind of like that. And let's bring it up a bit so you can see that there's a flag there, but you don't need to go much further than that. And maybe pull this tent over and maybe let's add in a text box saying that the event, get your tickets at the box office. Alright, and of course we want this to look big and bright, so we'll make the font color of this one bright white, something like that, and I can decide whether or not I want to bring this up to a large, maybe pull this to the center, get your tickets at the box office, something like that. And I think that'll do. So this took us about 40 minutes to make this poster using Microsoft PowerPoint. If you have any questions about anything you saw here, please throw them in the comments below. Happy to answer them, and I'm happy to make them part of future videos. If you like this and you want to see more of this type of content, go ahead and hit the like and subscribe button and ring the bell, and we'll be able to make more like this. Enjoy!